I am just gonna start recording this. I don't care if I have a net thing on my head because I'm trying to get my hair to be decent again. It's Saturday night, so chill, and I'm actually gonna do this video in 3 parts. I'm gonna do like 3 different versions of this and see which one is better, which one comes out better. So this is my version. I wrote this into ChatGPT asking for a better way to write this out because it's kind of a little bit disjointed and stuff like that. I don't care. I'm going to read it out anyway, and then we'll see where it goes. The idea was to make a video about how I became anxiously attached from secure attached with my boyfriend over the many years. So how I became secure attached to anxious attached with my boyfriend, illustrating his constant on again, off again, and inconsistency, and giving me all in one day and then literally the next day or week going completely distant, making me question his commitment and certainty, and wondering why, and beating my head against the wall with it, like wondering like what the heck, and then blowing up at me when I try to check or get confirmation because he's gone out of communication again and I seem like I'm out of the picture. This may have already happened about 100 times over the past 8 years. The pattern of this trained me to be hyper vigilant and hyper anxious about whether or not I did something that made him mad or did something wrong, and would need constant reassurance eventually. Like in the beginning it was like no big deal. It was like, yeah, I trust you. I wasn't wondering if I did something wrong if I didn't hear back from him. It was like there was like an even distribution. Like there was a certain reciprocation instead of mixed signals or hot or cold or whatever. So anyway, I digress. So this is not just some imaginary thing on my part or some sort of regular neurosis within my mind or something that I just need to suppress within me, but actually a condition that was directly created by his action of doing this pattern with me, creating lots of insecurity and uncertainty and worry about whether I did something by mistake that perhaps pissed him off or made him change his mind again, creating lots of instability. Hence why when I recently called him to check and see if he got a message of mine an hour after I sent it before going to sleep, somehow I really pissed him off, and then he tried to explain to me the next day that he didn't want me to do that, but instead, when he tried to explain it to me, he got very angry with me and literally went psychotic on me and very disrespectful before I could even try to clarify what he was trying to say to me. I didn't like the disrespect and decided I didn't want to keep receiving this and put myself in a situation where I was going to get yelled at like this unexpectedly and unpredictably. When literally the day before, we had just spent about an hour or two discussing me coming to live with him for a while I get back on my feet, and he would help me out. And yeah, this was literally yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. And then so the day before yesterday, and he would help me out, and I even asked him as we were, talking and stuff, are we in a relationship? And he said, yeah, we are. Even though just a few days before that, he had told me he was done with the relationship when I gave it a try to restore our affinity and communication, and we had made an official agreement that if our communication seemed to get too tense, and one of us was having difficulty with the conversation, one of us could mention it and the other would have to respect it, and we would say, okay, let's shelf this and we'll talk about it tomorrow or come back to it or something. So I did mention that in this conversation of yesterday, but somehow he insisted, or he instead wanted to chew me out, use vulgar language, cuss me out, and yell at me for this quote unquote boundary he wanted to express. And yet when I asked for clarification, because he didn't just come out and say, hey, I don't want you to call me and see if I got your message. He instead was like really hard to understand, very unclear, danced around the topic, started out with accusing me that I didn't think he respected my needs or something like that, which wasn't true. Anyhow, so he just yelled at me and invalidated me and told me he'd already said it, but it wasn't clear until we did talk later. He just didn't want me to call him later to see if he got my message, without actually being aware that he had in fact created the very condition that he was getting so pissed off with me about, leaving me with a problem I could do nothing about, but yeah, somewhat manipulative. Whether he's consciously aware of that part or not, yeah. I want this story to be told about how I got turned from secure attached to anxiously attached, and give some sort of lesson to the story and possible solution for others who may be experiencing the same phenomena and what they could do about it, stating that the first step in this process is awareness and communicating about it with your partner, the one who's causing the insecurity, and by being inconsistent. And if you still feel like you want to work it out and not just walk away, give a possible solution. But of course, both partners would have to be willing to put in the work to reverse engineer and reverse the actions of how it was created in the first place. The partner who's creating it would probably have to start being more proactive on being overly reassuring, at least for a little while, at least at first, instead of leaving the other to wonder, just blaming them for being needy or whatever, insecure or something like that. Just calling it one of their flaws. And after talking about it with the partner and receiving a positive response, the partner who is anxiously attached and insecure has to try to start trusting, as long as the other partner can act in unison and not do more things that destroy trust, such as breaking agreements, and can do more things to be a bit more consciously reassuring, not just put it on autopilot, like, oh yeah, love, mwah, yep, all good, bye. And then, but like emotionally and spiritually detach while you're, becoming distant anyway in thought. And then, but then, I guess, if you put in the actions that actually show that you are reassuring or whatever, like just, responding to a message within a reasonable amount of time. It doesn't have to be like right away or something if you're busy, but if you see it, rather than just push back and like, I don't want to have to, that kind of a thing. You have to consciously be proactive to actually recreate trust and rebuild some reassurance after, because that condition has been created. Okay, that's that.